is my privilege to introduce to you the 45th and soon to be the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Trump's decision to visit a black church in Detroit, a city known for its significant African American population and historical importance in the civil rights movement, carried substantial symbolic weight. Detroit, with its predominantly black demographic, presented an opportunity for Trump to engage directly with African American voters and demonstrate his commitment to addressing their concerns. However, the optics of the event, where a predominantly white audience filled the pews, immediately drew criticism and highlighted perceptions of Trump's disconnect from the realities and needs of African American communities. This contrast between intention and outcome underscored broader critiques of Trump's approach to minority outreach, often perceived as tokenistic or superficial. The pastor's address at the church in Detroit was a pivotal moment, not only in critiquing Trump's policies and rhetoric, but also in galvanizing the congregation around themes of unity and collective action. His impassioned speech, delivered with fiery conviction, served as a direct rebuke to Trump's claims of support within the black community. The pastor's critique went beyond mere political differences. It delved into Trump's character and ethical standing. By labeling Trump a documented bigot and highlighting his legal troubles and divisive rhetoric, the pastor articulated deep-seated frustrations and concerns within the black community regarding Trump's presidency and leadership. The media coverage of Trump's visit and the pastor's speech reflected the polarized political landscape in America. Conservative media outlets framed Trump's visit as a bold attempt at outreach to the black community, focusing on his efforts to bridge racial divides and promote economic opportunities through initiatives like the Platinum Plan. In contrast, liberal and centrist outlets scrutinized the event's execution and aftermath. They highlighted the stark discrepancy between the intended black audience and the predominantly white attendees, questioning the authenticity of Trump's engagement with African American voters. This disparity in coverage underscored broader debates about media bias and the portrayal of racial issues in political discourse. Public response, outrage and validation. Within the black community, Trump's visit elicited a range of emotions from outrage to validation. Many viewed the event as a cynical attempt to exploit a sacred space for political gain, symbolizing Trump's broader disregard for African American concerns and experiences. The pastor's defiant stance against Trump resonated as a rare instance of speaking truth to power within a community often marginalized in mainstream political narratives. Social media platforms became a battleground of opinions and reactions. Hashtags like #TrumpLaneDetroit and #PastorSpeaksTruth trended, amplifying voices both in support of the pastor's condemnation of Trump and those critical of Trump's racial politics. Prominent figures and activists weighed in, adding momentum to the discourse and reinforcing the significance of the pastor's speech in confronting systemic injustices and inequalities. Trump's visit to Detroit and its aftermath reflected deeper tensions surrounding race, politics, and leadership in contemporary America. His presidency had been marked by contentious racial rhetoric and policies, from his handling of racial justice protests to his controversial remarks about minority communities. Critics argued that Trump's approach to minority outreach often lacked substantive policy proposals and genuine empathy, instead relying on superficial gestures and rhetoric. The Platinum Plan, while touted as a significant initiative, faced skepticism from many within African American communities who questioned its long-term impact and sincerity. Moreover, Trump's historical controversies, such as his involvement in the Central Park 5 case and allegations of housing discrimination, continued to shape perceptions of his commitment to racial justice and equality. These controversies were not mere political fodder, but underscored fundamental questions about ethical leadership and accountability in public office. The events surrounding Trump's visit to the black church in Detroit had lasting implications for both his presidency and broader societal debates. They highlighted persistent racial divides and systemic inequalities in American society, as well as the role of faith-based institutions in advocating for social justice and community empowerment. For Trump, the visit underscored ongoing challenges in expanding his political base beyond his core supporters and addressing criticisms of his leadership style and policies. It also raised questions about the effectiveness of his minority outreach efforts and their reception within diverse communities across America. Discriminated against. Can you imagine? Trump actually thinks that being a convicted felon makes him relatable to the black community? The pastor made it clear that this kind of insult is exactly why Trump's efforts are doomed to applause fail. What a nice welcome. Thank you. That is the reaction to Donald Trump. But it wasn't just about calling out Trump. The pastee's message was also one of unity and progress for the black community. He stressed that if the black church isn't united, then advancing as a people becomes a pipe dream. He urged everyone to come together to stand strong against divisive figures like Trump and to focus on building a better future for their community. It was a powerful call to action, reminding everyone that the strength of their community lies in their unity and collective effort. Every major outlet picked up the story, each putting their own spin on the confrontation. On one hand, you had conservative media downplaying the whole thing, focusing more on Trump's attempt to reach out to the black community. They painted it as a brave move, trying to bridge gaps and extend an olive branch. But honestly, they seem to gloss over the actual reactions from the event itself, which is where things get really interesting. One of the 10 blackest cities in America with a population. Trump and his father twice for refusing to rent apartments to black tenants. The evidence was clear. Applications from black people were marked with the C for color, and they were routinely denied housing. These cases painted a picture of systemic racism within Trump's business practices. Elmborn and Raisin. We are here to affirm the values of the people of the Bronx. Diversity, inclusion, democracy. Fast forward to his presidency and the years leading up to it. Trump's comments and actions have often been perceived as racially insensitive, from calling African nations whole countries to his response to the Charlottesville incident where he claimed there were very fine people on both sides. He has repeatedly made statements that many view as blatantly racist. These comments have only fueled the perception that he doesn't genuinely care about the black community. Now, let's talk about his political strategy when it comes to courting black voters. Trump's efforts have been marked by high-profile, but ultimately superficial gestures. Remember when he posed with the taco bowl on Cinco de Mayo, proclaiming his love for Hispanics? His outreach to black voters has followed a similar pattern. He frequently touts his record on criminal justice reform and claims that he's done more for the black community than any other president. While the First Step Act was a significant piece of legislation, his overall approach often feels more like pandering than genuine engagement. Contrast of just this weekend, you got Donald Trump in Detroit talking to 8,000 people, and then at a black church. Of course, how do we expect beloved? One of his more recent attempts was the Platinum Plan, a proposal aimed at increasing access to capital in black communities, creating jobs, and improving education. On paper, it sounds promising. In conclusion, Trump's visit to the black church in Detroit and the pastor's impassioned address encapsulated deeper tensions surrounding race, politics, and leadership in contemporary America. The event sparked intense debate, media scrutiny, and public discourse about issues of racial justice, representation, and ethical governance. It served as a reminder of the complexities and challenges inherent in addressing systemic inequalities and fostering inclusive political engagement in a diverse and polarized society. This wasn't just about politics, it was about fundamental human decency. The pastor called out Trump's actions and rhetoric as being morally bankrupt, painting a picture of a man who consistently fails to uphold the ethical standards expected of a leader.